Can you explain why gut health is foundational for overall wellness?
I think we forget that gut is where everything begins.
I love that you're also training other coaches in your methodology. What do you think is the most rewarding part of helping others in this way?
You know, I love teaching. I'll tell you this. I just read somewhere that 2 out of 3 Americans do not know the word microbiome. And I'm on a mission to change that.
A lot of people struggle with sleep. How is that connected to your microbiome health? Welcome to Nafsika's View, the weekly podcast where we dive into a variety of topics that matter to you. I'm your host, Nafsika. Simh is a board-certified functional health coach and the founder of 9 Arms of Wellness. She specializes in helping busy women lose weight and maintain their goal weight by focusing on gut health. Anu's personalized philosophy has guided hundreds of women towards achieving and sustaining their health goals. She's also training other coaches in her unique methodology. Based in La Jolla, California, Anu works with clients nationwide through virtual sessions. Her passion for the microbiome is matched only by her skills as a plant-based chef. Her guiding principle is to empower people to eliminate medications for lifestyle diseases through dietary and lifestyle changes. Welcome to Nafsika's View, Anu.
Thank you, Nafsika. This is a pleasure.
Your focus on gut health has been so important, especially for busy women. Can you explain why gut health is foundational for overall wellness?
I think we forget that gut is where everything begins, right? You know, we think about the immune system, for example, 70, 90% of everything that happens, like your mood, all of that is involved in the gut. Immune system, gut-brain axis, insulin sensitivity, everything begins in the gut. And to understand that, it's really important to understand that the microbiome, these trillions of bacteria in your gut, have a huge role to play in gut health. And that's pretty much what I am so passionate about, really getting people to understand that feeding your microbiome is really so monumental for our health, for our overall health.
I agree. I always say the gut health is the most important. It's like the core. It's right there. This is this is where it all begins, right?
Yeah, I mean, and we say things like, it's a gut feeling. You know, I had a gut feeling. I mean, there's so much more to it than just a saying, right? It's because these microbes are really kind of doing so many things behind the scenes for us that it's very imperative that we take care of them. And that's where having a plant-forward diet really helps, because that diversity from a plant-forward diet is what the microbes really use as fuel, and they ferment that and produce incredible compounds for us that are beneficial to us as humans. So there's such a connection to how we feed them and how we are served.
That's interesting. So true. You've guided so many women in achieving their health goals. What are some common misconceptions about weight loss that you often encounter?
Yeah, the big thing that I encounter is that people are on restrictive diets. You know, they say, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, or they're just trying to cut down calories. And when you do that, you cut out a lot of these incredible antioxidants, phytonutrients that are nourishing your microbes. And when these microbes don't get the fuel that they need, there's some incredible research coming out that you can lose the weight, but Nafsika, there's this yo-yo weight gain, right? You gain the weight back. That happens because studies are showing that these microbes hold on to this obesity memory. And they hold on to the memory because they don't have a lot of these wonderful bacteria that are so good at breaking down fiber, polyphenols, all of these plant sources that are so incredible for energy extraction and figuring out how much energy to extract from a food. So what you eat is important, but also how much energy you extract is dependent on what kind of microbes you have in your body, in your gut.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are meat eaters, they're not getting enough fiber. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I will say that I am vegan for animal rights. but I'm plant-based for health.
That's
I
right.
am plant-based for microbes, and microbial health is so dependent on the diversity from the plant kingdom. So it doesn't matter whether you're a vegan or an omnivore. The important thing is that you're eating enough plants, enough, because I have encountered many vegans who don't eat enough plants. So the important takeaway is how much plant power are you taking in? How much of these wonderful, incredible sources of polyphenols, flavonoids, phytochemicals are you taking in on a daily basis? So to answer your question about animal protein and fiber, yes, if animal protein is your source of protein, which by the way is not the only kind of protein one needs to take in, then you need to support that with fiber so your microbes have a source of fuel. Research is showing us that when you just, let's say you eat a steak or something like that, and most of it is digested in the upper digestive parts of your digestive tract. But if you eat too much animal protein, and if you are not digesting it really well, it ends up in the colon. And your microbes are going to not say, "Oh, not eat it." They're going to eat anything that you send their way, but that is not your chosen or preferred fuel. So they end up eating these, they digest the protein, and they end up making a lot of toxic metabolites from it because that is not their preferred fuel. So toxic metabolites like hydrogen sulfide or ammonia, picrosols and things like that are not beneficial to us. So if someone is just listening to this and saying, "Well, I don't want to be a vegan," that's not the microbes don't care. All they care is, are you getting enough fiber?
Yeah.
And the big question is, if you're eating like animal protein, are you adding enough fiber for your microbes? Because we are microbial, we are mammalian, but we are microbial to a big extent. So feeding them becomes very imperative to our health.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that you're also training other coaches in your methodology. What do you think is the most rewarding part of helping others in this way?
I love teaching. I love people. I'll tell you this. I just read somewhere that 2 out of 3 Americans do not know the word microbiome. And I'm on a mission to change that. Because if we can just transform our health by feeding these guys, how incredible is it? This is not just romanticizing the microbes as forever guests. They are indeed doing incredible things behind the scenes for our health. So if we want to be healthy, it goes beyond macros. It goes into the micronutrients that you're taking in, and sharing that with coaches, people who are interested in learning about the microbiome is just fantastic. The more people learn about this, the more, and I don't just say just coaches, I say doctors, people who are in the field. A lot of them don't know about the microbiome. They're a little bit nervous about saying, and the biggest conversation is, "Oh, okay, Dr. So-and-so, what kind of probiotic should I take?" It goes beyond just taking a probiotic. It goes back to how are you feeding them? Because you can get prebiotic or probiotics in a bottle, but the real difference is happening on your plate.
Yeah.
How many plant sources do you have on your plate? And in order to know that, we have to educate our doctors, we have to educate our nurses, we have to educate our health system to know why these plant sources are important. It goes, we know that plant-based or plant-forward diets are really, really beneficial for cardiovascular health and things like that. But even from the perspective of these microbes, this is there's by far nothing else I've done. I mean, it's all the research I did before writing the book. Fiber is king. There's no getting away from it. It is a diet that really supports your health and thereby our health.
And with the plant-based diet, you're focusing on colors more than calories, right? We don't focus on calories. We don't. It's more like you have to have a variety of colors, so you're getting a variety of nutrients, right?
Absolutely, because diversity from the plant kingdom equates to a resilient microbiome. You want a resilient microbiome is a healthy microbiome. So the reason we want a resilient microbiome, Nafsika, is when we travel, we pick up bugs and things like that. Let's say we go to Mexico, we get Travis diarrhea or things like that. Some of us bounce back like very quickly, and others don't. And the big reason is our microbial health. If we have a resilient microbiome, we bounce back very quickly. So in order to have that resilient microbiome, we need diversity. And the diversity is really coming from the plant kingdom. The microbes don't care what kind of meat you eat. They do care about diversity from the plant kingdom. And you're right. Rainbow colored vegetables are like the foundational layer, and then you have enhancers, things, herbs and spices, fermented foods, prebiotic fibers, all of that really matter. So, that's what the microbiome loves.
Right. And talk to me a little about your book, Flourish from Within. What inspired you to write it, and what do you hope readers will take away from it?
Yeah. I think, I fell in love with the microbiome because of my own personal journey. That was a part of the puzzle that I didn't quite know about for the longest time. And when I did, I thought, this is it. I take care of them. They're going to take care of me. So it sounded very simple, but putting it into practice is a little bit challenging because anything new that you learn and for it to transform into a habit takes time. But once I did that, I realized that this is a message that I want to share with others. So I saw the benefit of people understanding. Like you and I, we're probably vegan for ethical reasons, right?
Ethical, yes.
For me, animal rights, it's a no-brainer. It's something. But with my clients, I don't really talk about that. I talk about health because health is number one. Because once they're in, then your eyes open. Once you see something, you can't unsee it. So that's a completely different conversation. But from a perspective of health, I realize that people need to know that the health of the microbiome is so deeply connected to our health. They're healthy, we have enough diversity and beneficial microbiome, we're going to be thriving from it. So the book really is that, because a lot of my clients were saying, I need a book where everything is in one place, something about, I understand what the microbiome is in basic language. I understand what kind of a diet really helps the microbiome and maybe some recipes. So that's pretty much what I did. I put together a book that's easy for the layperson to understand the science of the microbiome. The second part of it is I propose a diet called the Flourish diet, which is basically a diet for its plant forward and for your microbes. And finally, the last part of it is recipes to support your feeding your microbiome.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. You definitely have to give some recipes because it's good to get all this knowledge and information, but then a lot of people need to know what they're going to cook and how they're going to cook it. So if you make it nice and easy for them, they'll have a better time, an easier time transitioning. Yeah. That's for sure.
I do believe that convenience leads to consistency, and for convenience in a healthy way, because when we think of convenience, we think of fast food and things like that. But for me, convenience in this is to have a system, and when you have a system like, oh, I'm going to have this many grams of fiber per day, then it becomes easier. So that's pretty much what my recipes are. They're not like, just something really, complicated, having like 15 ingredients, simple things that you can do every single day of your life. And when you do it every day, pretty soon asking the question, what am I feeding my forever guest tomorrow becomes so easy. It's just like brushing your teeth. It's just another procedural habit that becomes part of your life. And that's what I'm hoping with the book.
And speaking of creating your passion for creating microbiome supporting recipes, can you share one of your favorite recipes that our listeners can try at home?
Yeah. And again, I really believe that making a goal, like someone who's listening may say, oh, I need to start taking care of my microbiome. But it's not simple. We are creatures of habit. So we may listen and we may forget. But if we have a system in place, then it becomes easier. So my recipe that I think my clients really love is a formatted recipe. It's just a recipe that has little tables with add a little bit of this, add a little bit of that, change this up every day. Like, let's say you do arugula one day, the next day you can do kale. What kind of prebiotic fibers do you add into it? So in other words, I'm giving you a format and you decide what goes in the format every week. So that lends to flexibility in life, because you may not find the greens in a recipe at your grocery store. But if you can substitute that with something else and say, this is also feeding my microbiome, it becomes a little bit easier to do. And that's always been my goal. Like, let's make things simple. Let's make things convenient. So the end user is feeling like, oh my God, this is too much. I can't do it, and give up.
Have you had any pushback from clients that are not really looking to go plant-based, or what do you do there?
Well, I don't really push plant-based. I say plant-forward. And so in other words, I say eat the protein of your choice. And even in the book, that is what I say, because that is how you can get people into a conversation. And eat the protein that you want, but support your microbiome by eating a variety of plant sources, so that your microbiome is supported, you're insulin sensitive, you are cardiovascularly healthy. There are so many benefits, and like the Baltimore longitudinal study for aging clearly says that plant forward diets are the best for your cardiovascular health and for aging, all of that. So we know that Mediterranean diets are really, really beneficial for us, and they're largely plant forward. So that is something that's very clear to us over so much research over the years. So that's pretty much what I say. I say, eat what you want, but eat the plants. And eventually they come to their own. And I think it is a personal decision. Like, no one told us that you have to be vegan or
That's
you
right.
have to be plant-based. We made that choice because it resonated with us, right? And I want to give the same opportunity to my clients and saying, choose what is right for you at this moment in your life. And if you have high cholesterol or you have certain health issues, perhaps adding more plants is the way to go. And we don't even know if we are healthy or not healthy at this point. How do we know that? So what we know is that research is supporting that if you did add all of this, there's a better chance of you being healthy. So why not go with that? So it's a more inclusive conversation with a client, and that's pretty much how I handle it.
Absolutely. A lot of people struggle with sleep. How is that connected to your microbiome health?
Well, Nafsika, like we as humans, we are diurnal. We have a circadian rhythm, and we wake up with the sun, and we're supposed to go to bed when the sun sets. But thanks to all of the artificial light and our crazy erratic work schedule, we keep working well into the night, right? So that breaks the circadian rhythm. And when that circadian rhythm is not followed, that can affect every aspect of our well-being. So having a good, sleep routine is really important. And from a microbial perspective, it's very important too. Our microbes also have a circadian rhythm, and they like when we eat at a certain time, we finish eating at a certain time, we go to bed at a certain time. So they have that rest and digest. So they are able to rest as well. So it's very important. There's an incredible amount of research showing us that when we have late nights, when we go to bed later than what our routine is, that can really decrease the diversity of microbes, the beneficial bacteria. So more of the pathogenic bacteria show up in our microbial composition when we're not sleeping the 8 hours or sleeping deeply. All of that really does matter.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's a big question of when you don't sleep the required hours, the next day you're more apt to eat something junky. I mean, research is showing us we can eat up to 400, 500 calories of junk food the next day. And I personally experienced this when I have like a deadline or something like that and I go to bed late. The next day, my brain is not looking for broccoli. I can tell you that. I'm looking for chips. I'm looking for donuts, looking for all the crap in the world because it's a dopamine response. We're like, bring me that. So in order to prevent that, I think sleep is monumental. We have to clean up our sleep act.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that. So sleep more, sleep well, so you don't run to
more than anything, sleep consistently at the same time.
Consistently.
Have a sleep routine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., stick to that.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And get your sunshine in the morning.
Absolutely.
That's very important for sleep. How much sunlight you get in the morning is directly connected to how well you sleep at night.
How much sunlight do you need?
Well, it depends on who's asking. I'm dark skinned, so I probably need more, but someone who is lighter could get away with like 10 minutes of sunlight in the morning. And also depends. Yeah, and it also depends on how your vitamin D is processed in your body. So some people may have like a genetic mutation for that. They may need more. They may need a supplement. But sunlight is so crucial for your well-being, for your mood. It's connected to so many different things.
And when we're talking about sunlight, we're talking without sunscreen? Or what are we talking?
Well, the morning, yeah. You don't need this. You don't need sunscreen. I mean, sunscreen is for an external thing for, to prevent wrinkles, for certain, sun-related diseases and things like that. But the morning sun is fine for most people.
I think so too. I agree. I think your skin needs a little bit of sunlight for the vitamin D also. Right?
And vitamin D is more than a vitamin. It's so beneficial in so many different processes in the body that it's imperative that we get some of it. Yeah.
And they say even your eyes need a little bit of sunlight.
Yeah. That's why the morning sun is great. And people can do this as an experiment, get some sun in and track their sleep. And I bet you anything, people who live in like really colder climates, they don't see the sun as much. Even something like the happy light, that really kind of wakes their clock genes in the morning, just really helps them. Is a good alternative, I think. Like I live in San Diego, so I see the sun a lot. But
oh yeah,
Oh
yeah, you get the sun a lot. That's nice.
Yeah.
And how about intermittent fasting? Because you hear about that a lot. Everyone is doing a fast or intermittent fasting. It's very huge right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, intermittent fasting has gotten a lot of, good press and bad press. There's certain studies that are saying not beneficial because it could increase sarcopenia or loss of muscle in older people. All true, because it depends on, in that intermittent time restricted window, what are you eating becomes very important. If you're getting adequate protein and fiber during that window where you're eating, then that's not a problem for people who are older and who have muscle loss, right? But that's what that study was about. But then there's also a lot of research about women in cycle and how women in cycle need different kinds of intermittent fasting because just before a cycle, you're tired, you're exhausted, you may be looking for certain foods to eat. And so respecting that becomes important. And postmenopausal women may need an entirely different kind of intermittent fasting cycle. But from a microbial perspective, they love it.
Okay.
That having that time-restricted window really helps with the diversity of microbiome.
So
I would
intermittent
say,
fasting could be good, but it depends on your situation, where you are,
yeah,
what in your
I
life.
think for one's health, caloric reducing caloric intake, even like one week a month or something like that, is really good. It gives your digestion a break. Like I do like fasting mimicking diet, which is like you're fasting, you're not entirely fasting, but you're mimicking a fast, meaning you're eating fewer calories. I do that once a month. And that works for me because I work out and I strength train. So I wouldn't be able to do it like every day or something like that, and it's not necessary. So I do it once a month to just give my digestion a break. And I feel so clear. There's clarity in thought, action, when you're not, stuffing yourself with too much food. It's like anything, you need a break.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Anu. Your insights into gut health and wellness are truly inspiring. And I can't
Thank
wait
you.
for our listeners to learn more from you. And where can they find your book?
Well, the book is going to be out this spring, and they can pre-order it on my website, ninearmsofwellness.com. And it's also going to be available where all books are sold.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anu. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Nafsika. It was a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of Nafsika's View. Remember to engage critically with the content you consume and join us next week for more discussions that inspire and inform. Until then, take care.